How's it going, everybody? I'm meteorologist Joey Cargnas back with your daily forecast. Today we have severe weather moving slightly farther out to the west and farther north out in the Front Range, looking like they could see some severe weather today. But we can't forget about Texas. There is a small chance that they see some larger hail down in the Fort Stockton area, looking like a pretty good chance for some severe weather down there. And then we're also keeping track of typo there. Should say summer heat coming in soon. Looking like things are going to be heating up fairly quickly over the next week or so. So we'll be looking at that, but taking a quick look back at yesterday, had some mainly wind reports or stray small hail report out in Oregon, but had some breezy conditions out in the Rockies yesterday, and then smaller hail, had a few severe reports out in the Wisconsin, Illinois area, but then a couple of tornadoes down in Kentucky and Arkansas down there. And then down in Texas, we had quite a bit of wind up in the DFW area earlier on yesterday morning. Had, I believe, 80 to 90 mile an hour wind gusts in some areas out there, and then Houston got hit pretty good yesterday as well, had some wind-driven hail in that. And then a little bit farther out west, Colorado had some decent hail, Kansas had some decent hail as well, but the main story was farther south, had this really solid storm out near Lubbock that dropped 5-inch hail in some spots. And it wasn't just an isolated report. We had several reports of hail between that 4 and 5-inch range. So pretty decent sized hail out there yesterday in the later afternoon. Right now, things are fairly calm. One of the rare mornings over the past couple of weeks that we haven't had too much activity going on in the morning. Things were actually relatively slow, have a nice cold front extending all the way up from the northeast, all the way down to the central U.S. Things are going to be firing off kind of along this stationary front as this cold front pushes through. Get a little bit of a dry line forming along the Front Range as well. That's going to push off slightly to the east as the day moves on, firing off those storms later on in the afternoon and evening. So looking at the rest of the country right now, have this nice trough. We get a good ridge bringing in all this warm air, heat, not blocking any of the moisture from the Gulf, reaching very high up into the plains. We have a trough sitting off over the Rockies right now. That's going to provide a lot of the main source of lift as we go into the afternoon for these storms today, getting all the way up into North Dakota, all the way down south to the Rio Grande River, down along the Texas-Mexico border. There we go. Significant hail model showing lower end values all the way up into North Dakota for this afternoon, and you can see that bullseye right around Fort Stockton. That's where the largest hail is likely to be later on today, but not going to rule out a stray large hailstone or two up in the higher plains, especially around the Black Hills. They like to produce larger hail with the colder air in the higher elevations up there. And then going into the evening, those significant hail values increase just a little bit, not too much. Like I said, a lower end, more isolated storm day today. It's going to be very messy storm mode, but we could get a few stronger cells that produce some larger hail going into this evening. And then tomorrow, looking at mainly the central and southern plains in the target again for severe weather. So Oklahoma, Texas, portions of Kansas could see some severe weather going into tomorrow afternoon and evening. So chances are looking pretty good for that. And then things will continue for Friday. Again, mainly a southern plains event for Friday. So just the central and southern plains are going to get hammered over and over again until we get a cold front that pushes all the way down to the Gulf of Mexico and cools things off for a little bit. Looking at our instability today, so the energy supplying these storms, seeing low to moderate values all the way up in the northern plains this afternoon and early evening, but that is just enough energy to get storms going up there. They don't need a whole lot to trigger storms, not like down in the southern plains here where we need those higher end conditions to get those larger storms. They just need a little bit of wind shear instability to get things going up there, but seeing some solid instability values down in the Fort Stockton area, supplying all that energy for some larger hail going into this evening. And then tomorrow, see this nice little line here where all those storms are going to start firing off around 3 to 4 p.m. Is looking like that time frame for tomorrow. That's going to push off to the east into the evening hours, and then we'll get another plume of that instability pushing back up for Friday. So no shortage of energy for these storms to work with over the next few days. So we'll be keeping an eye on that. And then Saturday we could see some more storms in central southern Texas along the Gulf Coast, looking like a decent chance out there. So dew points here, not like we see in the southern plains, these light green values, so dew points around the 45 to 55 degree range is usually all it takes to have enough moisture for storms up there. They don't need the 60 to 70 degree dew points that we do down in Oklahoma and Texas to get storms firing off really well. They only need the about 40 to 50 degree dew points to really supply enough moisture for these storms to work with. So we see a nice little boundary forming along the Wyoming, South Dakota border that stretches all the way down into New Mexico. So a very narrow band of severe weather for today, but a very long band of severe weather that we'll be expecting all the way from pretty much the Canadian border all the way down to the Mexico border for severe weather today. Then going into tomorrow, those dew points will push even farther inland into Oklahoma, even up into Kansas, maybe even a little bit of Nebraska. We could see some severe weather with those dew points reaching fairly far north as we go into tomorrow afternoon. Here's our high resolution short range model here. Not seeing a whole lot until about 5 or 6 p.m. That's when storms are going to fire off along that very long corridor there. Around that Fort Stockton area is where we're looking at some decent hail. Model even picking up on a nice splitting supercell around that Fort Stockton area. That's going to be where that largest hail is for today. Expecting maybe 2 to 2.5 inch hail sizes out of those storms down there with all that dry air that they get aloft usually. And then as we go into tomorrow morning, we'll see one wave of storms move through Oklahoma and along the Red River, and then we'll get a second wave of storms moving through in the evening hours. So a couple of waves of possibly severe weather for Oklahoma and Texas tomorrow, but moving up into the northern plains for today, we have some severe weather possible around that same 5 to 6 p.m. time frame. Storms firing up in South Dakota, Wyoming, Montana, and then moving into North Dakota as the evening goes on, firing a little bit farther south around 7 or 8 p.m. into Nebraska and Colorado and Kansas. Those areas looking like it'll be a little bit later. So this cold front dry line combo just kind of has to zip together. It'll squeeze these storms and fire them off around that 6 to 8 p.m. time frame. Up north, though, the severe weather threat will diminish pretty quickly as these storms kind of merge into a big cluster around 10 or 11 p.m. So around just before midnight is when the severe threat will be on the lower end up there as things get fairly messy and disorganized. But that's what we're looking at for the northern plains today. Here is our hail map. Like I said, a very long, skinny corridor for today, with the highest threat being around that Rapid City area, looking at possibly up to Gulf balls up there. Cheyenne right on the border there of that threat, and then Denver, Pueblo, Colorado Springs. They're right on the edge of that threat, not expecting storms to really fire off there. They might just push off a little bit farther east before those updrafts really get going. But they could see some hail. I'm not going to rule it out completely for them to get some hail, but it's more unlikely for them to get hail looking at a little bit farther out east for the larger hail threat today. And then Fort Stockton, a decent chance to see some larger hail. So I have up to tennis ball sized hail possible for the Fort Stockton area today. So that's something we're going to be keeping an eye on for sure, especially since models have been pretty consistent with that supercell forming out in that Fort Stockton area. And if it does get going, it has really nothing stopping it from producing that fairly large hail today. Here's what we have for our jet stream. You see that trough that I was talking about, where we'll get a nice little low pressure system located around that Montana-Canadian border. Long cold front dry line combo extending all the way down south to the Mexico border there. And then we have this little short wave that'll push through tomorrow, just this little wiggle in the jet stream tomorrow evening. That'll supply enough lift for storms to get going around the Oklahoma, Texas area. Could see them push a little bit farther north up into Kansas, Nebraska, Iowa possibly, maybe even Minnesota on the very end, northern edge of that low pressure system and cold front out there. But the main threat is going to be farther south in the Texas, Oklahoma area for tomorrow evening. And then things start to calm down a little bit going into the weekend. We'll see another little jet streak push through early next week. That could bring some more severe weather to the upper Midwest area around Tuesday, Wednesday, that time frame. And then going into the back half of the week, well, this is the next main system that we'll be watching for the end of the week. If this can push farther south into the central U.S., we could see a decent chance at some severe weather. But right now, models are kind of showing this jet streak staying off to the north, and in that case, that'll bring us mainly just warm conditions and possibly some lower end severe weather, not looking at any particularly large outbreak days for next week. At least at this moment, things can obviously change. But that's how things are looking for right now. Here is our five-day rain chances, seeing Central Plains getting a solid amount of rain around the Houston area, 5+ inches expected over the next 5 days. So that's what these repeated rounds of rain and thunderstorms are going to do. They're just going to build up that rain over time. So, I mean, if there's any drought conditions still present in the central U.S., this will help out pretty significantly, especially since it's spread out over a 5-day period, not expecting super heavy rain on any one particular day. Today, looking at mainly Texas and Oklahoma along the Red River getting some decent rain. And then Thursday, that stretches all the way up north. Friday, pretty much the same area as we're expecting for Thursday. Saturday, conditions are those rainy conditions are expected to shift off farther to the east. Sunday, more scattered, sub-severe thunder showers expected, not going to completely rule out any severe hail or wind or anything like that. But they are going to be more isolated, consolidated to a smaller location for the weekend. That's how things are looking for that. And then 6 to 10 day precipitation outlook, expecting above average precipitation for much of the East Coast, far southern plains, drier than average for the northern plains, the high plains up around the Montana, Colorado, Wyoming area. And then as that jet streak is starting to move on to the coast of the Pacific Northwest, above average precipitation up there. And then if you want that summer heat, next week looks to be a fairly good chance at pretty much the entire country experiencing above average temperatures, with the warmest temperatures being out west around the Utah, Nevada area. A smaller chance at above average temperatures out in the southeast, but things are looking like they're going to be heating up fairly quickly as June is the official start of summer for meteorology, at least. So that's what we're looking at for temperatures. Things are warming up quite a bit. That means usually severe weather is going to be slowing down just a little bit at least, but we do still have those daily chances for severe weather over the next several days. But if you're interested in learning more about us, go ahead and follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. Or if you're interested in purchasing a plan, go ahead and scan that QR code up above me. Or you can give us a call at 855-334-4245. Email us at info@hailtrace.com, or check out our website at www.hailtrace.com. That's it for now. I'm meteorologist Joey Cragness. Thanks for watching.